I'd like to call Nash County Public Schools Board of Education to order. I would like to start out by saying, please, we have a mask policy inside this facility. The policy is wearing your mask at all times, making sure it's cover your mouth and your nose. So if it's not covering your mouth and your nose, not compliant, I have Deputy Blunt and Deputy Gardner who will make sure that we comply with the system. All right, so with that said, we got a pledge of allegiance. Our pledge of allegiance, I'm going to call forth Hayden Moss and Joshua Robinson. If you guys please stand, please. Face the flag, gentlemen. Yeah. This way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming. Wonderful job.
Good job.
Thank you for coming.
Good job.
Good to see you.
Appreciation. We're there Friday. Good job. Appreciate it. We're there Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. With that said, I need a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
So, Ms. Board Clerk, can you record, please? It's been moved by Mr. Lamb, seconded by Mr. Silver. Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor, would you please say aye? Any opposed? The ayes carry. The next thing on the agenda is approval of the board minutes. I need a motion to approve the board's minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Silver, seconded by Mrs. Dr. Washington. Question or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed? Ayes have it. Next item on the agenda will be recognition. Ellis, you doing recognition?
Yes, I am tonight. So the NCPS Hero Recognition. Tonight, Dr. LaShonda Washington has been nominated for Outperformance and Excellence. Dr. Washington serves the Nash Board of Education as Vice Chair. She completed her PhD in Criminal Justice from Walden University, November 2021, and graduated on January 29, 2022. We are so proud of Dr. Washington and this major accomplishment. She is our NCPS hero. So please come forward, Dr. Washington.
Did you see her eyes?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Did you see her eyes light up? That was so good.
I was thinking, y'all, at least do this for picture so we know who you are 20 years from now.
So I'm gonna ask Dr. Washington to stand up here in your place, Dr. Ellis, while you go through the presentation.
All right, so the next, we now recognize our United Way campaign high achievers. Please come forward, Rick McMahon and Jenny Morebutter, for these recognitions.
Hello, how you guys doing?
A lot of good memories in this room. Good evening. I mean that just as sincerely as I can say anything in my life. My name is Rick McMahon, and I'm a United Way volunteer. And this year serving as head of the board of directors, and I'm here with Jenny Morebutter, our executive director. And again, we appreciate the fact on your busy schedules and with all the things that you have to do that you've worked us in a little time for us to come here and really thank you. Because once again, on behalf of all of the boards of directors and the thousands of people that are helped by United Way every year, we want to say thank you. We represent them and want to say thank you to you from them. Obviously, the work that you do every day impacts this community in such a positive way and the quality of life in this community. And so that's in your everyday work. But even beyond that, with the United Way and your participation in the United Way campaign, and with your support, we are able to help thousands of kids and their families throughout this region. And you've been a big part of that. In the last 10 years, United Way has raised over $12 million to invest back into the community. And the Nash County school system has been a huge part of that. And that number, that $12 million is a lot of money, and it's been a lot, but you have, again, been one of our largest campaigns every year. And with all the challenges that you face, and with just the unbelievable challenges that you face these last 2.5 years, and we're still in, you still stepped up and did it where you've, this year, we want to recognize and thank the school board and really the employees in the campaign and the employees in the school system that you raised $42,573. And that's good for that, like always, places you about the 6th largest campaign in the total campaign that we run. And we have over 5,000 donors that participate. So that's really a remarkable accomplishment. And we really can't tell you how much we appreciate it. We would this time like to just celebrate those things, because one of the unique things about this school system, when we go to a company or we go to a business and they run a campaign, you guys with your schools and departments, you get to run 35 campaigns. And so you run 35 campaigns that have to be run and coordinated. And that just makes what you've been able to do in the midst of all the other challenges makes just really remarkable your accomplishments. So I don't know who's going to be able to be here or who is here, but we want to recognize, first, we want to recognize the highest totals in elementary, middle, secondary, and in the department. Our highest elementary school was Bailey Elementary that raised $3,955. Is anybody here from Bailey? Okay, that's okay. They just did, again, a remarkable job. Our middle school winner was that raised the highest total was Southern Nash Middle School, raised $2,256. So again, just terrific. And you know, as you look around, these are not necessarily your larger schools or whatever. These are just schools that just took this to heart and participated and did the job. Leadership has something to do with that too, I think. The high school category, Northern Nash High School raised $3,370. And so they did a great job. And the department that raised the most money, Human Resources, raised $1,000.
We got Northern Nash.
Oh, we do? Yay. Yeah. That's terrific. Thank you so much. There you go. No. Somebody. We good? Oh, she's going to wait till everybody. Okay. I hope you're not waiting for me. Okay, the department that raised the most money was the Human Resource Department, raised $1,835. Anybody here from Human Relations? That's okay. That was, again, remarkable. So those are the 4 leaders in that. Now, that's going to be the end of that category. How do you want to do this now? You want to get us? You don't want us there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want y'all.
Let's get you in there. Thank you.
Now, the second category, and again, these are schools or departments that exceeded their previous contributions from the previous year that improved by at least 3%. Human Resources, who we just talked about, increased their contributions by 206%. Wow. Which is just remarkable. Southern Nash Middle School increased their contribution by 102%. Student Services increased theirs by the Student Services Department increased theirs by 78%. Curriculum and Instruction increased by 65%. Okay, somebody throwing that on me. Stop.
We got innocent bystander.
Student Services, there we go.
Which, Mr. Farrer?
You're gonna wait for anybody? No, stop. You got one at the end? Okay. That's great, man. It's good. Let's see, Inglewood Elementary School increased by 29%. Inglewood. Bailey, again, which was the school that had the highest total of any school in the district, increased by 18%. Planning and engagement, again, increased by 16%. The early college increased by 15%. Middlesex Elementary by 15%. And Nash Central Middle by 12%. We want to really thank all of those schools. Is there anybody here from any of those schools?
There we go.
Okay. Did I miss that? Okay. Curriculum and instruction increased by 65%.
Put it in. Do I need to move that podium?
No, no more.
That's going to be all this, other than just these folks at the very end. But again, I just didn't want to fly through this, but I'm so trying to be respectful of your time. In closing, we really just would like to thank everybody, because it really does take a little bit from a lot of people, turns into $42,000, $43,000, and we're so appreciative of that. And more than that, the people who receive the services from the 24 nonprofits. We have so many educational programs within those nonprofits that support what you do every day, and support those kids when they leave you and go home, or when they're there in the summer. So it really is a partnership. So it is so, so important. Dr. Ellis, thanks I know again how some of this stuff works. I don't know much anymore, but I know how these kinds of things work, and it takes somebody saying it's important, and somebody standing up and saying that this is something that we need to do. And we appreciate that. And Sarita, and is it Tamia? Okay, thanks. Because these are the guys, when I start talking about 35 campaigns, that's the reality of that is a lot of work. Yeah. And they're the people doing that work. And also at all schools and departments, everybody, we had coordinators. We had a coordinator in every department in every school. And again, those are the boots on the ground that are actually gathering and getting and pulling all of this together. It's a big deal, and it's a lot of work. And they are people who have other jobs. I mean, they've got things to do. They take that responsibility on, and we appreciate it so much. And of course, like we said, the department chairs and the principals, if a principal, again, I know how this works. If it's important to a principal, it becomes important to his school and to the people in his school. And I appreciate that very, very much. And again, and all the employees who reached in their pockets and said, they're going to make a sacrifice to invest in this community and the quality of life and the kids who go here. And it's a tribute to those who do that. It really is a remarkable thing. And every year, in any of the years that I've had anything to do with it, the school system has always been one of our best campaigns, and no matter what's going on and with all of the challenges. So within the course of all the challenges of these last 2.5 years, and for you guys to continue to make this kind of contribution to our community is really remarkable. Thanks for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to see you.
I know.
And we just want to say thank you guys for the work that you do in the community and your service to this community. Your work has not gone unnoticed, so thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is public input. So each month, as a part of at least one regular school board meeting, will be set aside for citizens to address the board through public comments. A sign-up sheet will be available in the communications office for any individual or groups to indicate their desire to address the board. Disruption by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to actions in accordance with General Statute 143-318.17. And anyone, if you have any other further questions, please refer to the Nash County Public Schools Policy number 2310. So we do have 12 people on the schedule to speak tonight. I'm going to ask that we will be cordial and respectful, that we will not applause, cheer, or jeer, just listen to what's being said. And first person on the item to speak is Kathy Hawk.
I did not have to write my speech tonight because actually you guys did. Part of my speech is taken from your elementary school papers given out to the kids last month. Parts of it. Did you know that little old North Carolina led the way for America to become free from England? Thus the saying, North Carolina, first in freedom. The Halifax Resolves said we wanted independence from England and we took it. North Carolinians can be proud of their ancestors who did not hesitate to fight for the right to be free. In 1775, North Carolina was considered to be in rebellion of England. The Mecklenburg County Committee said all laws from England were not to be obeyed. And you guys know the rest of the story. What an insult to those brave people who 247 years ago fought for what you are taking away because of your power-hungry ideas. You go by the CDC. I shudder to think how many of you would follow their rules if they said getting rid of your firstborn will make COVID numbers go down to 0. You listen to the toolkit. I call it the fool kit. It's a shame we have leaders that believe in my body, my choice for killing thousands of babies every day. But my body, my choice doesn't work for masks. Those of you who vote to keep the mask every month must have COVID brain because clearly you are in a fog. Parents, we have to start doing what our ancestors did, take back our freedoms for our kids. If we have to start to rebel, we will. We are all tired of it, and you can only push people so far till they fight back. So come December, LaShonda Washington of District 9 and Reginald
Excuse me,
Silver
time out.
from District 8.
Ma'am, we do not call out board members or any names. on
Oh,
the
I'm
list.
sorry.
If you-
I'm sorry. Districts 8 and 9 are both up for reelection. They are both the Rocky Mount districts. Parents, we know what we have to do. Those of you wishing to run, you can get on the ticket come July. I'm sick and tired of the harassing messages from the teachers almost daily telling us to talk to our kids about wearing masks properly. I'm not, and told the teachers I don't want to hear it anymore. Moral freedom is an important blessing we should always be grateful for, and we should be grateful to those who fought it and won. This is from your North Carolina Freedoms paper that you guys gave out to the Englewood kids last month. And I took part of the page out. Thank you.
Ella Hawk,
Good evening. My name is Ellie Hawk, and I go to Englewood Elementary School, and I am in 5th grade. I am not speaking about masks tonight because it seems to be a waste of my breath, as some of you just don't get it. I want to bring up breakfast and lunches. I know all kids get free breakfast and lunch, but there is a saying, just because it's free doesn't mean it's good. My sister is in Rocky Mount Middle, and almost every day she says the milk is very warm or expired, or they run out of an item. The food is good sometimes, but more times it's gross. Either cold when it should be hot, taste nasty, or not pleasing to the eye. You give us spinach. How many kids do you think are going to eat it? Maybe 5%. Why is it hard to give us nice meat, dairy, fruit, carb meals that taste good and is good for us? I am sure the parents who can pay for it won't mind, and those who can't can still get it reduced or free. All this COVID money you get, can't you have ways to keep the milk cold for us? Why can't the pizza be hot? People in jail get better food than we do. Also, why can't we eat in the cafeteria like normal people? I mean, like normal kids. You treat us like we are dogs with rabies. You mask us and keep it separate from the other dogs. At feeding time. Some of you are voting to ruin a lot of kids, and shame on you. We are tired of it.
Thank you, Ms. Hawk. Caroline Can,
Did you say Caroline?
Caroline Kine.
Okay, right here. Face masks are designed to be worn in hospitals to prevent saliva droplets from landing on patients and fellow staff. But for students wearing face masks for up to 7 hours per day, 10 for students in extracurriculars, along with social distancing in school and constant reminders of danger presents some hygiene and significant mental health risks. Masks also affect speech and language issues from not being able to see the speaker's mouths. Currently, Florida has no mask mandates in any of their schools. They have left it up to the teachers, up to the parents, not the school boards, not the teachers, to be able to make those decisions. It is optional. They have no more cases than we do in North Carolina for the students. They don't require students when they do get a COVID case. They don't require a whole class to be dismissed or anything, or if they're nearby without a mask, or look at how good they are at covering their faces or anything else. They don't force the kids out of school. On a different subject, my daughter was subjected today to not being able to use the lavatory at all, except for at 10 o'clock in the morning when she didn't have to go. She's allowed 3 bathroom breaks. I think that is child abuse. My daughter has had countless urinary tract infections, and this is not helping this matter. I think being how we are with our children in these schools is really affecting their health, their mental status, and everything else. And this is not fair to them to not be able to raise their hand to say, I have to use the lavatory, and be able to go use the lavatory. No, we have to have scheduled times, and they're allowed 3 bathroom breaks. And if a teacher during those 3 bathroom breaks decides, oh, we don't want to give them the bathroom break in that class, they're not going to get it for that time. And 2 of her teachers did that to her today. Is that fair? No. So between the masks and the not using the lavatory, what are we doing to our children mentally? What are we doing to them physically? This is not fair to our kids. I think it's time that we take our kids' freedoms back.
McQueen. Sophia Khan.
Go ahead, Sophie.
That was her.
I would like to talk about how long the teachers are making us kids stand in the hallways, because it's a really long time. And also when the teachers say that they're going to punish the students that are acting out and they punish the whole class, how is that fair to the ones that are being good? Because I don't cause a lot of trouble, but the other kids in the class, they make the whole class. Right now, my class has silent lunch for the rest of the week because of some people that are talking. That is unfair. You should remove them. There's ISS they can go to just for lunch. There's different places you can go. There's substitute teachers. There's places. We got a whole big school building, 2 stories high, that you can put them. But they're going nowhere. And you know what that's doing to them? That's giving them the satisfaction of getting the other kids in trouble, which I don't think that is fair to me or the other kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Shandeep Boone?
Hey, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there a way that we can get their information, have the superintendent at least reach out to those folks that's got a complaint on the schools and get more information about that so that it can at least be investigated?
See, they should be forwarding that information to the superintendent anyway. So, Mr. Boone?
Yes, okay. Good evening, board members. Dr. Ellis. First of all, I just want to say thank you for those who continue to vote for the mask. I think it's very important that we continue to allow our staff, students, parents, co-workers to keep that right to protect our health. A lot of people are talking about how it doesn't benefit the kids and this, that, and the third. But I was just reminded on yesterday how when the people or the Egyptians were told to take the blood and put it over your doorpost or your firstborn would die. You know, we remember these things in the Bible and how it talks about how if you you could speak in tongues, or if you have faith as to move mountains, but you did not have love, then what you have is absolutely nothing. And so today I just encourage you to continue to vote for the mask mandate. There are a lot of children out here who have compromised immune systems. And when you continue to vote for the mask mandate, that is saving a child's life. We don't know what the possibilities are for every child, but we do know that the masks are effective. And so I just encourage you to keep voting for that. And I can encourage you to keep on letting those who are opposed of it do what they have to do and continue to threaten board members or belittle board members because of their own selfish agendas. And moving forward, I just have one other thing that I would like to address tonight, and that is as a bus driver for Nash County Public Schools, it seems that bus drivers have become the laughing stock of Nash County. And I think that is sad because there are a lot of people who are dedicated, who are committed to serving Nash County and Nash County families. But somehow we seem to be heard but not listened to. Somehow we seem to be mocked and criticized for our efforts to speak up, stand up. But as the old saying would go, either you stand for something or you'll fall for anything. We have to be our biggest advocates because there's no one to advocate for us. And so we come here month after month just asking for the board members, the committees to just hear us. We're not trying to be rich. We're not trying to do anything but be considered. And right now, I don't know what you guys see when you go into the schools, but currently what I see is a lot of people who look at us and turn their heads as if we're not a part of the team, the very team that we've been hired to be a part of. And not only that, when are we going to be able to have leadership that is willing to stand for us? When are we going to be able to have those who go out and advocate for us and we don't have to do it for ourselves? When are we going to have those who are willing to extend that hand out, not to give us something, but just to be there to support us? Just so that when I think about it, a lot of times when you guys go to a school, you guys have rolled out the red carpet. However, when we go to a school, we're just looked upon. And so to me, it's just not fair. We're, as one of my coworkers told me yesterday, we're not celebrated, we're just tolerated. We're tolerated on the school campuses. We're tolerated within transportation.
Next, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Mary Arrington?
Good evening. You all know me. I've been before you before. Good evening to everyone
Good evening.
in their prospective place. I'm standing here tonight to tell you all again that we are bus drivers. You all say that we are important. It's time for you all to show us. We do not feel like that. If we speak out, there are repercussions behind it. I don't think that's right. I'm one, and if it's not right, I'm gonna speak out. They might not like it, but I'm still gonna speak out. God gave me this, and that's what I will do because it's not right. Like my brother have said, Things have been said, things have been done, but we are overlooked. We are overlooked. If you go out there and just sit and watch as the buses go by. I am driving a bus right now that look like it should be in the junkyard because of the paint. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And all of this money that's coming into the school, why can't our buses look as nice as other buses? Those buses are terrible, terrible. And you all, the money's coming in. But where is it going? It's not going to us. And we supposed to be the most important people. You all are not showing us. You're not showing us. And like I say, if you speak out, there's repercussions behind. But I'm not one that's scared to speak out when need to be spoke out. And that's just me. Thank you.
Robert Cordell. Is Mr. Cordell online? Bronson Williams.
I want to say congratulations to the new elected leadership of this school board. We wish you Godspeed in this effort of leading this district. We understand that the district doesn't have taxing authority, so your responsibilities that you have for mandates oftentimes come and they're not funded. We understand some of the pressures that you deal with as you navigate through this school system. I would say that as I've heard for several months, the bus driver issue, I don't know when and if they will, but perhaps if the school bus drivers decide to stay at home for a day or two or a week, perhaps there'll be some priorities to their understanding as to what their needs are in this community. I would hope that they would muster the courage to do just that, because sometimes you can talk about things just too long. What I also want to share tonight, I don't know where the school district is as it relates to the COVID funds, as to how they plan to use the dollars in which the district will have in the coming months or years, and what that time span is to expend such dollars. Lastly, Nash County Schools also has 3 schools, which is D.S. Johnson, Baskerville, Fairview, and Parker. I was at a meeting a couple months ago in which they were talking about $15 million in deferred maintenance that this school system has not given to these particular schools. If true, I hope there is a plan to deal with the deferred maintenance of these schools so these children are treated equitably throughout our district. That is important, that all children are treated the same no matter where they are. This is critical for all children's success. I will say that I had an opportunity because of the incident I had with my daycare center from changes of student pickups. If the pickup period is 30 minutes, it should be 30 minutes to the same spot, not changing it at will and having inconsistency. Because we have inconsistency with leadership at schools, that may we also have inconsistency with teaching our children. So we look at what their test scores and performance look like, it would speak to leadership within our district. But I will say that your principal, Ms. Newkirk, showed up at my child care facility past 5 o'clock to engage in a conversation with me so we can rectify that matter with that school. So we certainly appreciate the superintendent in his selection of Ms. Newkirk for Baskerville, because she certainly showed me in that short action, our conversation with her commitment and dedication to that school, taking children home when she have to, going beyond what her call of duty is to ensure that those students are treated as individuals and little adults as they are. But I will say this too, that children should never run the school. It is the leadership within the school that runs the school. It is our responsibility to train children in the way they should go and not let the children train us. Thank you.
Chris Wheaton.
I'm not here tonight to beg you to unmask our kids. I'm here again to point out some of the hypocrisies in this global science experiment. The CDC, influenced by Lord Fauci, has changed the science over and over again, literally overnight. Deciphering the conflicting data can be overwhelming, but breaking down the common sense numbers should be pretty easy, even for those still struggling with elementary math. There is not one scientific study that shows masks have a positive impact on combating coronavirus. The science is not settled and it never will be. Remember way back in the old days of 2020, when they had you cleaning your groceries with Clorox wipes to get rid of the COVID-19 left on your vegetables by the contaminated stock crew? You couldn't find latex gloves because everyone was stocked up, too afraid to touch doorknobs and gas pumps. Remember all the way back to 2021 when they wanted you wearing goggles and face shields so you don't get COVID through your eyeballs? Seems pretty ridiculous, don't it? So why hang on to the masking? My theory, people are scared. They're not scared of the coronavirus. They're not scared of dying. It's been 2 years and we've all been exposed. They're scared to look like fools, afraid to admit they were wrong, scared to acknowledge they put their trust in the scientists and not in the science. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the often misquoted definition of insanity. Although very relevant for this conversation, I prefer the literal definition. A severely disordered state of mind, unsoundness of the mind, or lack of the ability to understand, extreme folly or unreasonableness, something utterly foolish or unreasonable. There is no better example of insanity than 2 years of trying to hide behind a mask from a virus with a 98.8% survivability rate. 2 years of advice from psychopaths that want to push archaic mitigations requiring children to be masked at school and at play. 2 years of mandates targeted at our smallest citizens with the lowest risk of transmission of any group. Although some of you do have children in the school system, I keep coming back to the fact that the majority of those voting to keep children masked do not have school-age children and likely haven't in decades. So it brings me to my final point. Why serve on a board dedicated to our children? Why does your opinion matter when you don't have a dog in the fight? Why should you get a vote when you don't have to go home and look your child in the eye and explain your actions tonight? Fauci was on the Sunday Nonsense Network over the weekend declaring we will never go back to pre-COVID normal. So if you're waiting for the Messiah himself or Emperor Roy Cooper to grace your television and declare COVID is over, it ain't going to happen. It will end when we say it's over. And for some of you, that will be never, and you will be fine with that. But one thing I do know for certain will end, and that is your mob rule over this board.
Christy Bartholomew. I'm sorry, thank you.
I get confused also. Pretty much all that he said. I just want to know why our kids are still wearing masks and they're not threatened by the virus. It's okay for me to wear this mask, but it's completely see-through. Like, it's not doing any good. So I don't understand why just because something's covering your face, you're happy that that they're covered and that it's okay for them to wear a mask all day. I don't understand. In December, I think there was 23 students that had COVID on the screen, but you still voted to wear masks. So what number does it need to be for there not to be a mask mandate in the schools? It doesn't matter how low the number, you're still going to choose to have them muzzled. And the thing is I truly believe that no matter how little the numbers are in the state, in the country, in the world, some of you will always wear a mask, but we're not all going to wear a mask. So at some point, even if you choose to wear a mask, at some point, we've got to release these children. They're not threatened at all by this virus. I mean, I think I saw like 1,000 kids had died or something. I don't know the exact statistics, but all of them had immune compromised systems or whatever. And my whole point is at some point it's got to stop. And I think today would be a great day.
Thank you, Chastity.
Yes, sir.
Alicia Heyman. Loretta Butler.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on again. I hate to miss the last meeting. And congratulations, everybody got certificates and recognized tonight. I'm glad I got back on, but I did have a chance to look over the numbers presented at the last meeting. And something that stuck out to me, well, a couple things really, is on the metrics, they keep saying, it's just kind of odd to me, you know, it might show one was 156 for cases outside of school, 0 inside school. There was another 12-17 was 34 out, 7 in, 12-24, 28 out, 2 in. And I think it's pretty common sense that you don't put several thousand children inside of school and somehow magically all the cases are coming from outside of school. And I understand it works well for the game plan, you know, to say, oh, well, then it's masks. You know, masks clearly work. When we know the teachers, the principals, everybody talks about it. The kids don't wear them. Their hands are all over their faces all day long. It's just odd to me how it gets skewed, and it's awfully convenient. Not calling anybody a liar, but it's just, if you apply common sense and simple math, we all know, you all know. I mean, the flu, kids getting sick at school for the last 100 years, everybody knows it came from being in a classroom, being at school, not magically walking outside and walking back in. To that point also, on the metrics that are presented, it shows the death rate per 100,000 people. And if you look at it, it always says less than 10. That's a point, well, actually, it's 0.0001. That's 1/10 of a 1,000. I looked it up. That puts you right in the mix of walking outside tonight and getting hit by a meteorite. I'm not making that up. That's you can look it up, Google it. Aside from that, the main thing that kind of concerns me, and I know it's Wake County, but you guys are using numbers created in Wake County, so I thought I'd bring it up. And that's the assistant superintendent made a comment the other day that they wanted to start masking kids below 4 so that they could train and prepare them for the future, which kind of, you know, clearly puts it all out there. It's not about safety. There was never even a mention that it would benefit the younger children other than to train and prepare them. And like I said, that's Wake County, but that's where you're getting a lot of your information and a lot of the people you're getting your information from, which isn't really applicable to Nash County. And I can't see my time that I've got left, but so maybe I won't take up that much. I did just want to point out that recently,
Well, that's time.
Jersey, Delaware, and Connecticut are all listed in these masks. So look at your other comrades and use that. If these states are removing, you can.
What's the threat? Cordell Stewart, Robert Cordell. Yeah, I'm calling you still a quarterback.
Mr. Board Chair, the superintendent, and the rest of the board members. Thank you so very much for keeping the masking policy in place. In my opinion, everybody who enter the schools, should be wearing a mask. Now, we know you cannot force anybody to take a shot, but scientists have proven that masking will certainly reduce deaths and reduce sicknesses. As of last Saturday, February the 4th, there have been over 900,000 lives lost because of these diseases. And that's about the size of the city of Charlotte. Yet the vast majority of those succumbing to these diseases were those who were not vaccinated. The Omicron and the COVID-19 viruses are rising almost everywhere, every day. There are 15 states in the United States, including Washington, D.C., requiring the mandated use of masks in their public schools. In my opinion, in all 27 schools in our district and all of its auxiliaries should have masks available to anybody who enters these buildings at any time. And if we continue to follow the 3 W's, the viruses will continue to definitely slow down according to the scientific reports. As we all know, the Omicron and the COVID-19 viruses does not discriminate because of race, sex, age, or sexual orientation. Yep, it has its own equal opportunity employer. Even though in some segments of our society that shows that the diseases are potent, but we can, and they are decreasing. But as of now, we cannot put our feet off the gas at this time. And parents, the kids do not wear their masks all the time. When they are distanced at lunch and their PE and recess and bathroom break, they take off their masks. And parents, if the kids do not have a problem wearing the mask, you got to ask yourself, where does the problem lie? So on behalf of the 19,000 kids in our school system and the thousands of parents, school board members, we thank you so very much for keeping the masking policy in place and keeping our kids safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That ends the section for the public input. I would like to make an injection here. We've heard from the bus drivers just about every month for quite a length of time. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ellis if he would please bring us a study of comparison what our bus drivers are financially doing as opposed to the bus drivers in the other areas in this district. So we can make sure we're relatively competitive. Thank you, sir. With that said-
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. Mr. Ellis, I asked for that last month. Do we have it yet? That same information?
Yes, I have about a 2-page document I expressed to the board. I'll start sending you as of tonight. That'll give you some points of clarification.
Thank you. So with that said, the next item on the agenda is item 7, business items. Section 1, MP safe COVID updates and face mask and cover requirements.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are going to give you our updates on our current COVID metrics and then some updates to the Strong Schools Toolkit that have taken place since the last time we were here last month. So if you'll go into the first one, yep. When we look at our positivity rate, Nash and Edgecombe are still high. You will see that they are coming down slightly. We're at 23.27% in Nash, 22.7 in Edgecombe. So we're really excited that we're starting to see a downward trend in our positivity rate in the community. When we look at our hospitalizations, however, while we're seeing a downward trend of our overall COVID cases in the community, we are seeing an increase of our percent of our beds used in Nash County. Edgecombe County did not have the data reported when I looked again this morning. And then for the total population of Nash and Edgecombe residents who have been vaccinated, we are still seeing and continue to see an increase in the percent that we have of our overall population who are vaccinated as well. When we look at our own metrics within our school district, we start looking at, these are the cases that we actually have within our district. And you will see, again, we are trending downward as we are mimicking the positivity rate within the community. I think there were 2 weeks that are not reported here that we were over 400 cases that were within our population. So for us to be at 131 last week, that's good. So for the quarantine, you'll also see that we are able to reduce the rates of students who are out of school and quarantine due to in-school exposures. And Nurse Terrell is going to talk with you about our test to stay policy, which has allowed us to keep kids in school and not quarantine. Okay. And then for our next slide, we did not have any reported clusters and closures, classroom closures or school closures. The weekend in 128, we did have 4 classroom closures that closed, I believe, for half a week, a couple of days there, and then returned back on Monday. And we have been good ever since then. Okay. Now, Nurse Terrell is going to go over these toolkit updates that have occurred since.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
They just updated again on January 10th. There was like 3 boom, boom, booms in early January of updates to our Strong Schools Toolkit. Some of these are the same. So diagnosis, regardless of vaccination status, is a 5-day isolation, followed by 5 days of strict mask usage when you come out of your isolation. Our children who have, students who have mask exemptions, we will go ahead and isolate them for the full 10 days. Symptoms, if you are unable to provide us with either a negative test or an alternate diagnosis, that again decreased from 10 days to 5 days out of school, as long as you're fever-free. Fully vaccinated, if you have a household exposure, there is no quarantine required if you are fully vaccinated. We just, and you're asymptomatic, it's just 10 days of strict mask usage. If, however, someone becomes symptomatic during that time, they isolate and we recommend testing. Unvaccinated, if you have a household member with COVID, is a 10-day quarantine from the date of the household member's positive test. And unfortunately, that resets each time another person in the household tests positive. We recommend testing on day 5 if someone, or sooner if they become symptomatic. So someone in the house has it. If someone becomes symptomatic, we recommend they get tested. And then we will presume someone positive if they develop symptoms during the quarantine and testing is not done. So a parent has COVID and 3 days later, the kids all start with COVID-like symptoms. As long as they let us know, then we will presume them positive and just give them their 5 days isolation from that point.
Got a
And-
question.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. On that slide, the previous one that you just switched from, for the vaccinated people, what does it mean to fully isolate?
What? If you become symptomatic, then you should isolate and recommend testing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. Number 2, just define immediately isolate.
Means don't come to work or school anymore.
Do you have a date range for that?
If you wake up in the morning and you live in the household with someone who has COVID and you wake up with congestion, sore throat, any other of the COVID-like symptoms, you should not go to school or work that day. And we recommend you go ahead and get tested.
Right, I understand. But after that, how many days are they out?
Well, if they test and they test positive, 5 days from the test date. If they don't test and they have symptoms, then 5 days from their symptom onset.
Okay, so it's just 5 days for the fully vaccinated, correct?
Anybody who is either positive, test positive with COVID, or is presumed positive, 5 days. The vaccination has nothing to do with it if you become symptomatic or you test positive. Fully vaccinated is only if, let's say my husband was diagnosed with COVID and I'm vaccinated and I don't have any symptoms, I can continue coming to work as long as I'm wearing my mask and I'm not having any symptoms. Should I develop symptoms, then stay home, get a test, and go from there.
Okay, and that's good. I was just trying to figure out what the range was for immediately isolate. That's all. It's don't know if that's 5 days, 10 days. That's all.
Can I ask a question though?
Yes.
So I can't remember which slide it was, but it said an alternate diagnosis.
Yes, sir.
So I understand, obviously, if the child leaves school sick and goes to a doctor, that's, you know, you can get an alternate diagnosis. But
Yes, sir.
can the school nurse give an alternate diagnosis?
No, sir. A nurse
So-
cannot diagnose.
Okay, so here's where my question lies. I've had multiple phone calls and contacts with parents who a child comes to school, and the most recent one is a child got sick at school, vomit, called a parent, child went home. Well, in the presence of a nurse, asked, you know, what did you eat? What was going on? And the kid just rattled off sandwich, candy, crackers, just a bucket full of food. And we come to find out the kid packed her own lunch and she ate too much food. She got sick. She went home 30 minutes later. She's playing, but she missed 10 days of school. So at what point do we start looking at some of these things like that and say, yeah, this kid doesn't have COVID. She ate junk food and we can come back to school. But instead, I got a child at home for 10 days.
Nobody stays home for 10 days since the beginning of the school year. It's 5 days.
Okay, well, 5
Unless
days.
it's household exposure.
Ma'am, I'm gonna ask you to refrain from speaking, please.
But I guess what I'm looking at is where are we at? Can our school nurses that made the decision to send them home, can we not look at case by case like that and say, yeah, the kid just ate, junk food and come on back to school? Where are we at with that?
We try to, and we try to do that even before COVID, but things are a lot more complicated with COVID because you don't want to make the mistake of leaving someone in school who it turns out that they had COVID and then they've exposed other people. A nurse cannot diagnose, a nurse cannot treat. That is out of my scope. That's out of my scope of practice.
But we can send them home for symptoms.
Pardon me?
I guess what I'm just looking at is where are we at with that scenario I just gave you? Are you as a nurse not allowed to say, yeah, that child could come back to school? I mean, it's just confusing to me, and I'm just, because I've had
really
multiple
don't think
phone
that happens
calls.
that much, sir. I would be surprised to think that happens that much.
My question is not how many times it happened. My question is that scenario, can you not allow that child to come back to school?
We ask that their
Do you have that ability?
we ask if they have one isolated symptom, and it was a case like you just described. A child got sick, and then we found out, stay home for 24 hours. If it doesn't occur again, no other symptoms develop.
They
then
could
yes.
come back. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't think that's what the parent was told. So I just wanted to get clarification so I know how to answer that question going forward to my parents that call me with that. Thank you very much.
Test to Stay was the new addition to the toolkit since we last met. And so under Test to Stay, any non-household exposure in a school system that has masks required, you are not required to quarantine regardless of your vaccination status. So if the non-household exposure either happened at school or school athletics, or perhaps over the weekend, you found out that someone that you'd gone out to lunch with tested positive, those people are not required to quarantine. The day that you're notified of the exposure, we do a COVID test, recommend a COVID test. And then, so that's a rapid test, so we have an answer right away. And then on day 5, we recommend a PCR test to make sure you don't have COVID. Strict mask usage for 10 days. And if for our athletics, if they are unable to mask consistently during the sporting activity, they should not participate. So these exemptions, this only works as long as we have, as long as we're in a mask required setting. Otherwise, it will go to the 5-day quarantine for an exposure if you're not vaccinated.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Constantly, we're talking about the vaccination status. How are we checking that? Are we looking at people's cards, or how do we do that?
We are taking people's parents' word for it that if they tell us their child's vaccinated, that they're vaccinated as well as adults. Mm-hmm. And then this is just a summary for those who like charts of the quarantine and isolation guidelines. So if you're positive, regardless of your vaccination status, it's 5 days with 5 days of strict mask wearing. For an exposure, non-household in a mask required setting, quarantine is not required. We recommend testing on day of notification and as close to day 5 as possible with strict mask usage for 10 days. And then your household exposure, unvaccinated and no symptoms is still, it's a 10-day quarantine. Fully vaccinated and no symptoms is no quarantine required. Any questions?
I have another one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how are we in terms of the age levels now for children that can be vaccinated? Where is the lowest age?
5.
5. Do we have any way of knowing in our system how many kids are?
We do not at this time. I can go and look and see what we have recorded for Nash County and Edgecombe County. I do know that North Carolina is in the South leading the way for their pediatric vaccinations. So in the southern states, North Carolina is doing a good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, and the last one was in the Child Care Strong Toolkit, which only applies to our preschool settings. It was updated on January 13th and pretty much aligns now with what the K-12 guidance is. The test to stay recommendations are not included, but they do have mask to mask exposure. So if both preschool students are masked, then they don't have to be excluded. So that was the biggest update there. With our on-site COVID testing that we are doing for this past month, we did 3,155 tests as of this morning, and our positivity rate just for January was 38.82%. So we are quickly still able to test and help our staff and our parents out with that. So as we look at Senate Bill 654 and the session law, just a reminder that you had asked for recommendations for lifting masks as outlined in Strong School Toolkit. The recommendations are if your positivity rate in the community are high or substantial, everyone should wear a mask. If you're moderate or low, unvaccinated people should wear a mask at this time. So as you know, we have to come back every month and vote at least once a month on whether the face covering policy should be modified. The one thing too that Ms. Miller asked me to say was that athletics, just a reminder, the athletics did go back to wearing masks when participating in activities. On January 18th, due to the high transmission rates, they would like to continue wearing face masks at all times. All athletes, students, staff, visitors must wear them consistently when indoors. And of course, anytime they're on a vehicle, that has never changed. That's been in place the whole time, that they must wear face covering.
Ms.
So,
Grant,
yes.
when you say they would like to, who was that?
Miss Miller, and I think she's online. She met with the athletic directors at the schools, and they discussed it, and that's what they came up with. Miss Miller, anything else you want to say about that?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to share that due to the fact that we are at the end of conference, moving into regionals and state playoffs, this ensures that our coaches and athletes can continue to move forward without contact tracing because we wear them. It is a state mandate on buses and transportation. We are interacting with teams that have various rules and regulations across the state. When we weighed all of our options, this was in the best interest of our athletes to ensure that they could continue to play without shutting down teams with exposures.
Any other questions? Okay. So in the January board meeting, the board, you did vote to continue the following face mask requirement that all children, staff, and visitors must wear face coverings consistently when indoors, and all of our facilities, and of course, all passengers and staff must wear face coverings on buses and other group transportation vehicles. So pursuant to North Carolina Session Law 2021-130, Senate Bill 654, the superintendent requests approval of face covering requirements and need a vote.
Thank you. So at this point in time, this is where we go through our motion. So Ms. Board Clerk, if you could recall the action, the votes, please. I'm gonna go through the district first. District 1, Donovan Tavis.
Yes, stay masked.
District 2, Dean Edwards.
No.
District 3, Franklin Lamb.
The president's home state of Delaware is
reducing the mask mandate. Therefore, I leave it up to the parents' discretion.
District 4, Chris Bishop.
No.
District 5, Bill Sharp, maintain. District 6, Lang Dunton.
No.
District 7, Ricky Jenkins.
Mr. Chair, it seems like there's two votes here. One was for the athletes and one was for the students. Which one are we voting on right now?
We put them all together.
Dr. Ellis, yes, we will continue to do whatever the district votes to do as an entire district. That way that does not separate the athletes from the students.
Okay, thanks. My vote is no.
District 8, Reggie Silver. Maintain. District 9, LaShonda Washington.
Maintain.
District 10, Evelyn Bullock.
Maintain.
District 11, Sharonda Bullock.
Maintain.
Madam Board Clerk, can you recall the votes, please? The number for yea and the number for nay, please?
6 yes to maintain. 6 and 5.
Could you speak in the mic, please?
The vote was 6 to maintain, 5 to not maintain.
So we will continue to maintain the superintendent's recommendation. Next item on the agenda is donations.
So I will be reading the following donation tonight. Red Oak Elementary School received the following donation. Wake Stone Corporation donated $1,000 to be used for math and science programs. So you're gonna need a motion.
I need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I motion that we receive that with great thanks.
Second.
It's been moved by
Chavis.
Donovan Tavis, second by, who was the second? Dr. Washington, question or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Next item on the recommendations, the personnel recommendations.
Good evening again, Chairman Sharp, Vice Chair Dr. Washington, President of Virtual Board members. The personnel report has been presented and reviewed on behalf of Superintendent Ellis. Your approval of the personnel report is requested.
Need a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make the motion that we receive the information that's presented in the closed session.
Second? Is there a second?
Second. Give it to her.
It's been moved by Mr. Silver, second by Ms. Bullock. Roll call vote, Mr. Silver? Yes. Donovan Tavis?
Yes.
Dean Edwards?
Yes.
Franklin Lamb?
Yes.
Chris Bishop?
Yes.
Bill Sharp, yes. Hank Dunton?
Yes.
Ricky Jenkins? Is he still here?
He is, but he's muted.
Reggie Silver?
Yes.
Yes. LaShonda Washington?
Yes.
Evelyn Bullock?
Yes.
Sharonda Bullock?
Yes.
Thank you. And we have personnel recommendation. We did have information only. The next item on the agenda is field trips. Mr. Chad Thompson, or I'm sorry.
I'm not Mr. Chad Thompson, but I am presenting in his stead.
I am, accept my humble
That's
apology,
okay.
madam.
Good evening, Chairman Sharp, Vice Chair Washington, in-person and virtual school board members, and to Superintendent Ellis. I stand before you in Mr. Thompson's stead to request permission for an overnight field trip for Nash Central Middle School. This trip was originally set for East Carolina University and did not require an overnight approval. However, the Eastern District Clinic changed the location last week, February 3rd, and moved the clinic to UNC Wilmington. As a result, 7 students will travel to UNC Wilmington to attend the NCBA Eastern District Clinic.
Departure is slated for February 17th at 3:15, and the students will return February 19th at 3:30. The students will be accompanied by 2 chaperones who are Nash County Public Schools employees, and each child's parent will also transport students to and from the clinic in their private vehicles. There is no fiscal implication for the district, and schools will assume the financial responsibility. The superintendent recommends approval for the overnight field trip for the month of February.
Question. Can we take a roll call or make a motion first? I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Dunn, second by Dr. Savage. Question or discussion? Mr. Silver.
Is this 2 nights or 1 night?
The 17th
Yes,
and the 18th.
17th and 18th will be 2 nights. That's correct.
Any other questions or discussion?
Would all these parents be coupling together with their children?
No, I personally spoke to the band teacher today, and she shared with me that each child's parent will take them to and from Wilmington. There will be a total that I did not get. I tried to anticipate questions, but I didn't ask about the hotel reservation.
Mr. Silver always has outstanding questions.
Now you're trying to be my friend.
But I'm sure it's not the Ritz-Carlton.
You sure?
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, any roll call vote? Franklin Lamb,
Yes.
Dr. LaShonda Washington,
Yes.
Donovan Chavis,
Yes.
Dean Edwards, Chris Bishop,
Yes.
Joe Sharp, yes. Mike Dunton,
Yes.
Ricky Jenkins,
Yes.
Reggie Silver,
Yes.
Evelyn Bullock,
Yes.
LaShonda Washington.
Yes, again.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sharonda Bullock.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Dean was a yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dean.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, man. Appreciate it. Next item I made, Administrative Service and Operations Committee. We had committee meetings on last Monday to go over these 3 items. So the board committee is making a recommendation to approve these 3 items. I need a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 3 action items as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bullock, Sharonda Bullock, second by Mr. Lamb. Question or discussions?
Mr. Schaub, can you I don't have before me those items that are listed on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Would this be the committee that talked about the chillers?
Yes, sir. Oh, no, I think Mr. McQueen just posted those up. You can see them, Ms. Bullock.
I see it now.
Okay.
I have some problems with this, particularly about the refrigerators and moving the facility to Nash County. I think we are doing something that really is not fair, that really is kind of, in my perspective, underhanded. I think that because we anticipate that there will be a demerger, and it seems like there might be, but there also might not be. The demerger would not take place, would not even begin to take place until and if Edgecombe County defaults on a payment and they tell us they don't plan to make that payment. That would kick in the movement to demerge our system. To say today that we want to buy some freezers, upgrade what we have, and move from the Edgecombe side of town simply because we may be involved in a merger and we've got ESSA funds. I think that's a bit underhanded and a bit premature. I think that if we were not talking about a demerger, we would not even be thinking about moving the facility that houses child nutrition. And just because we think there is going to be a demerger, we are actually circumventing the system. And I think that is wrong. And I think that is really beneath what we stand for.
Thank you, Ms. Bullock. I've asked any other question or
I would just, being on that committee, would like to make a comment for
Well,
Ms. Bullock.
thank you. And Mr. Dutton, if I could, what I've asked that because I'm on the committee as well.
Yeah.
I've asked Mr. Davis to speak to that.
Okay.
So is he available to speak to that?
Yeah, Mr. Davis and Ms. Miller, if you're on, because I don't think we even talked about demerger. We talked about something else, but if you could speak to Ms. Bullock's question, that might help.
Yeah, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There was a plan actually several years ago under another administration to relocate child nutrition to Nashville. When looking into this process, freezers became one of the main issues in funding. With ESSERS now being one of the funding sources, now is the best time to relocate the department to a more centrally located area in the district of Nashville. This puts all three of our support services, child nutrition, transportation, and maintenance, within the centralized location of Nash County. Child nutrition, as you know, is sitting on the eastern portion of the district, and it would be more economical and efficient for child nutrition staff to serve the entire district from east to west by centrally locating. The cost of these freezers, we're still updating numbers, is in the range of 170 to 175,000. We are updating those now. So it's more of an economic standpoint and the timing of this to make this relocation at this time.
To address the point that was made that this has nothing to do with a possible demerger.
Well,
I refer you to the comments that were just placed on the screen. If you could go back to that agenda. And if you look at the main points, I didn't imagine that I saw the possibility of school demerger. And that is what I'm addressing. Had we said that child nutrition needs to be moved because that building where it is now is not really convenient for the district, and left it at that, that would have been one thing. But that's not what we said. And I still draw exception to this, and I will be voting no on it.
Thank you, Ms. Bullock. Any other questions or discussion, or Mr. Shannon Miller or Ms. Miller?
I'd like to piggyback real quick. Thank you, Mr. Davis. And Ms. Bullock, I totally understand that comment. I will share with you that prior to my involvement with school nutrition, and I moved into that role under previous administration, there was packets and plans in place. They had been looking at that transition because of the very factors that Mr. Davis mentioned about the centrally located part and the fuel that it entails with my two gentlemen carting food in both directions. We've had some freezer issues at school nutrition, and since then have been advised over the years with Hobart that we may need to look at purchasing others. That has to be a capital fund because school nutrition federal funds cannot be used for that. So that was a barrier that we've had for some time. I totally understand your point, but I do want to share that over the years has been a topic. We just did not have the funding to be able to look at it.
And funding, how is this funding total computed?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me explain what I mean. What I mean is the total funding that we received, is it based solely on numbers from Nash County, or is it based on numbers that we have from Nash and Edgecombe?
When you're referring to the numbers, I guess I'm questioning what numbers are you referring to? The financial numbers, or this is Mr. Davis?
I'm referring to the sum of dollars that we get. How do we come to that total amount of dollars? What formula is that?
Are you referring to the ESSER's funding or capital funding?
Did you not, or did someone not say that the ESSER funding would be used to pay for these?
Yes, ma'am. They were quotes that we solicited. Yes, ma'am.
Funding then?
Yes, ma'am. They were solicited on our website for 2 weeks per general statutes. Once we received the bids, then we were able to bring it to the board. And now it was like a 6-week process.
My question.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, say we got $1 million in ESSER funds, okay? How did we come to the $1 million versus $2 million? How did we get that amount? What formula is there that is used to bring us to that amount of money?
But the question is
It's not that somebody pulled $1 million out of the sky and said, okay, Nash County Public Schools, you get $1 million. There
Ms.
is
Wallace, that's what I'm trying to get you. The ESSER funding came from free and reduced lunch, federal money, percentages of Title I students. Wasn't that the formula used basically on our whole district? ADM was based on Title I, and the federal government have a calculation of the percentage we receive, and that's how we receive the money. You're only allowed to spend it on 3 or 4 things or criteria of what we have, and that's how we went through those calculations.
all right. And the point I'm trying to make, and then I'll leave it alone, because I think my point is made. I think, as my pastor likes to say, we are intelligent people. And I think we already understand my point, but I'll say it again. We got X amount of dollars based on certain criteria. Part of that criteria is based on our ADM. Our ADM is comprised of our students in Nash County and our students in Edgecombe County. And if we were not looking at a possible demerger, I think we would be having a different conversation. And I think the conversation that we are having is not fair and it's not right. And I think my point is made.
Thank you, Ms. Bullock. If there are no further questions.
I don't have a question, but I would like to make a comment if I may. In light of what Ms. Bullock says, she has a little validity to that. So I think in future references to things that we are going to purchase or move, we should not make reference to the demerger until that is exactly where we are. And I agree with that.
and
I
let me
would vote
tell-
for this, but I have that same problem.
Right, let me touch on that. I thought we were gonna actually clarify that when we, but I think that's an oversight in that section.
Okay.
But let me just say this also to my colleagues on the board. We have committee meetings once a month. Those, Ms. Bull, those are excellent questions, but those questions should be brought at the committee meetings so that we can have those discussions and carry them out. So at this meeting, we've already had that, we've hashed that out. So for the sake of public input, so if we can sort of take those questions and bring them to the committee meetings and have the discussion around committee meetings.
May I
Fair
say
enough?
this? May I
Yes,
say
ma'am.
this?
Yes,
Chair?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
There is absolutely no requirement
I
that
understand.
I must be present at a committee meeting
Absolutely.
if I have questions.
I agree. I'm not saying it, Ms. Bull. I agree with you.
And I was not at the meeting, but that does not give my right to ask questions away. I
I
can
agree.
ask questions at any formal meeting of this board.
I agree with you. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. So it's been moved, probably moved in a second. I need a roll call vote.
Wait a minute, who made
Yes.
the motion? Who seconded it, please?
Could you make, Madam Board Clerk?
It was made by Mr. Rhonda Thomas Bullock, and it was seconded by Mr. Lamb. So far, the only no vote I have is Ms. Evelyn.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
So we're doing a roll call vote. So our roll
What
will start.
Say about Miss Evelyn Bullock. I didn't hear her.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bullock. I was saying that the motion was made by Ms. Sharonda Thomas Bullock. It was seconded by Mr. Franklin Lamb. And
Okay.
so far, the only no vote that I had was for Miss Evelyn Bullock.
So let's go through roll call. Franklin Lamb,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
No.
Donovan Chavis,
Yes.
Dean Edwards,
Yes.
Chris Bishop,
Yes.
Bill Sharp, yes. Lang Dunton,
Yes.
Ricky Jenkins,
Oh, yes.
Reggie Silver,
No.
Evelyn Bullock,
No.
Sharonda Bullock.
Yes.
Madam Board Clerk, can you call back? Just give me the council yeas and nays, please.
8-3.
So it's so carried. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is academic service and accountability by Mr. Franklin Lamb.
Yes, this time, Spanish immersion consolidation, Ms. Wiggins. This was for information only.
Good evening, Chairman Sharp, Vice Chair Dr. Washington, Dr. Ellis, and the Nash County Public Schools Board. I'm here tonight to recap the information presented to you all at the school board work session last Monday, January 31st. Due to low enrollment numbers in the Spanish immersion program at Bailey and Middlesex Elementary Schools, a consolidation of the school's immersion program is necessary. The enrollment began decreasing pre-pandemic and steadily decreased at both sites, with a more measurable decrease at Bailey Elementary School. The students in the program have been successful at both sites. So to preserve the integrity of the program, all students who wish to remain will be allowed to transition to the site of Middlesex in the 2022-2023 school year. In addition, the staff and the resources will be allocated to align with the needs of the students. The district has formulated a consolidated plan to assist with the transition because it is not fiscally sound to maintain two separate programs. So the superintendent recommends that this presentation and plan is accepted for information.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins, and that was for information only.
There's one thing I'd like to add since we've had that committee meeting and I've been thinking about it, sort of like I said, it shows that small class sizes helps education no matter what language you speak. I would like, as the committee chairman, to receive more information on the immersion, how many students by racial breakdown are in those classes, and how much it costs the school system, so we can determine as a board whether it's worthwhile to continue.
Dan?
And one other thing, Mr. Chair, since we had 83 vote on the freezer purchase, we still had the budget adjustments. I don't know whether that 83 vote needs to carry for those other two that we had to vote on.
I mean, I had assumed it was all the items, even though all the discussion was on the one,
One, okay.
because of the way it was
I
presented.
didn't know if the board members that voted no for the freezer would want to have that show up as the way they voted for the
Thank-
budget adjustment.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin Lamb, for acknowledging that. I can assume anything, but if we go back, it was 8-3, it carried. So I'm a,
It's fine. I just want to make.
Okay,
a point.
thank
That was
you.
why
I don't have.
If it failed,
Right.
then I maybe would have.
Well, I don't want to cause another revote. I just want to bring it up.
Thank you.
You know, it shows that they voted no for.
I know, and that was, right, but because it was presented as a package.
Right.
I put the whole thing together in my mind as a package vote. And again, if it had failed, I would have gone back and asked for some
Right.
clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
I got one thing, please.
yes. On the Spanish immersion?
On the Spanish immersion, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for my opportunity. I just wanted to make sure that it's clear for everybody listening that we are just receiving information on this and that the board has not made a decision in this matter. Could y'all hear me?
You're right. We are trying to determine, we are saying that we want to move the Bailey Spanish immersion kids to Middlesex. That is what that's what we want as a district.
Yes, but I want to make clear that the board hasn't made a decision in this matter. That's just something that we're hearing, and that's something that meetings have taken part away from the board, and we're just hearing very little information about it as information only. We haven't made a decision in this matter.
So we've got a timeline that we talked about in the presentation at the committee meeting. Just make sure everyone looks at the timeline. We're going to speak to those parties that you're referring to. That's why we brought it to you first. And then we're going to start this timeline and we're going to make a decision. But our decision right now stands that we would like to move those kids based on enrollment, financial means, just non-interest in that Spanish immersion at Bailey. And that's why we're deciding to do this. But we will, Mr. Edwards, meet with all those people you were talking about.
Yes, sir, but I also want the public to know that the board members ain't got nothing to do with this decision. It was the central office's decision.
Okay.
Next item is policy committee, Ms. Bullock. Mr. Silver.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to piggyback on what Mr. Franklin Lamb said. His point well taken. I think it's important that we're all on the same page, especially when we're voting. We all understand what we are voting for, and nothing's hid from anybody. So I want to piggyback on what Mr. Lamb said. For clarity, it's very good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Policy committee, Ms. Bullock.
Because I was not able to attend the policy committee, I defer to Mr. Dunton to make the report, if he will.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be glad to, Ms. Bullock. I actually brought a note or two thinking that might be what we needed to do. So we've got two pieces here. We've got to vote on, I guess, our updates that are being brought for a first read, and then we'll also have a vote on those that have sat for 30 days and get final approval on that. Rod, I've got them broken out. Do I need to go through the whole slate and call them for as part of this, or?
I mean, they're listed in the agenda material, so
Okay.
I don't think you have to. No.
All right. Well, in that order, I'll just ask to see if there are any questions or any discussion for the ones that are being presented for a first read. They were kind of broken out into three groups, some with significant changes, a lot dealing in discrimination, military leave, and federal grant admin. There were some with substantial changes around licensure and personnel files, and then some minor changes, which were mainly just removals, additions of some references and terminology.
I move that we approve policies, with the updates under item number 1 for first read and to lay on the table for 30 days.
Second,
If we get a second.
second.
All right, so it's been moved by Ms. Bullock, second by Mrs. Silver for the section 1 on the policy committee to lay on the table for 30 days. Questions or discussions? Any further questions or discussions? Roll call vote, please. Franklin Lamb,
Yeah.
Dr. Washington,
Yes.
Donovan Chavis,
Yes.
Dean Edwards,
Yeah.
Chris Bishop,
Yes, this.
Joe Sharp, yes. Franklin Lang Dunton.
Yes.
You're killing these names, Bill. You got to work on.
Rick, you know what? I'm
Doing good. You're doing, actually, you're doing good.
I'm gonna have to call the officer to escort this gentleman out.
I'm already out, man.
Okay, Reggie Silver,
Oh, yes.
Evelyn Bullock,
Yes.
Sharonda Bullock.
Yes.
Thank you, baby.
So we have all in favor, the yes carried. Any nays? Nope. So section 1 is approved.
And very quickly, we've got a slate of policy changes and updates that we presented at the prior board meeting that are now up, have sat for 30 days and are now up for final approval. Any questions, concerns, discussion on those? If not, Mr. Chair, if you want to ask for a motion.
I need a motion to approve section 2 of policy committee.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Silver, second by Ms. Chavis. Question or discussions? Hearing none. Franklin Lamb, roll call vote.
Yeah.
Dr. Washington.
Yes.
Donovan Chavis.
Yes.
Dean Edwards.
Yes.
Chris Bishop.
All right. Yes.
Lang Dunton.
Yes.
Richard Jenkins.
Yes.
Reggie Silver.
Yes.
Evelyn Bullock.
Yes.
Sharonda Bullock.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Item 11, superintendent's report.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
So I just want to briefly state, just a comment, Ms. Bullock, when you were talking about the transparency and demerger. I just want the board to understand that we probably need to be proactive in our discussion about a demerger. I don't consider it a dirty word, but I think also as our district, we got to start thinking about when it does happen, because I think we need to put things in place for us instead of us being dictated from Edgecombe County Schools. They have a person they've hired. They've got balls rolling. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to, when I mention the word demerger, I don't want anybody to think that we are undermining anyone. But it is something that we are not talking about, and I think we need to, because we got to have some plans in place, because if it happens, our team in the district needs to be ready, because there's a lot of things that have to happen. So I'm not hiding anything, but I just want to make sure we're going to need to start discussing this, and it's not going to be about secrets or anything like that. I'm going to be open and tell you what I think our team is talking about and referring, because we have a committee, because I know Mr. Sharp in the last meeting talked about a committee we're forming. But I don't want to put it on the back burner, and I can't, because as a district, we need to have something in place. So I just wanted to make sure that was put out there. On the superintendent's report, I did want to say, I wanted to congratulate or shout out to Miss Wiggins. We had Super Bowl Friday last Friday, and elementary were, let me get it right, science of reading, letters training for elementary. Secondary, we had a list of courses that teachers, administrators could take advantage of, and it was all because of her team. And I just want to make sure, I want to give you a shout out, because it was an excellent PD session. Some upcoming dates: February 10th, Connect, Inform, and Engage. That'll be a listening circle from 6 to 7. That is a Zoom link. February 17th, District Spelling Bee. That'll be held at the Word Tabernacle Performing Arts and Worship Center. Please join us. Thank you.
What was the date on the spelling bee?
Yeah.
What was the date on the spelling bee?
Oh, 7, February 17th, and I believe it's at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Ellis. No thing to report out for the chair's report, but we do have to schedule upcoming meetings, of important dates. Mr. Silver.
Dr. Ellis, who would I get this information from as to how much it's costing us to have the spelling bee at Word Tabernacle Performance Center? Who would know that? There's no cost? Pro bono? Awesome.
Good, Mr. Silver?
No, I was going to, Miss Chavis and them.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Sidebar.
Yeah, sidebar. I apologize. I don't like sidebar. But she, let me just say this. She attends Word Tabernacle, so she was trying to get me about my church gives.
Chair's report. There's another report for the chair's report. I would like to say, though, we've been proactive, and actually next month, we have a surprise guest that will be presenting out to us next month for some status and stuff that's going on within the community. Dr. Ellis and I have been working with it to bring it to the board. I think you'll be well pleased with that as well. So schedule upcoming meetings, the policy committee meeting. Again, those dates are changed. It's Wednesday, 3/2 at 5 p.m. Administrative service operations, the same date. So as well as student services, academic service, same date. And we got the census redistricting. That's coming up as well. March workshops, Monday, March 7th at 5 o'clock. And also the board meeting is Monday at 6:30. Any other questions or discussions, Mr. Lamb?
To have some information. I heard about the letters training and all that. I would like to know how much staff development teachers will have to have for the letters training, just for general knowledge. It's like I said before, I go back to the open court series, and I know how hard the teachers worked and all for the open court series, and then, you know, the powers to be at DPI jerked it out from under them. You know, they need, like I said before, they need to have a dog in this fight. They need to guarantee we're going to stick with this reading series for 5 years, 6 years, or until the teachers say it's working or not working, instead of something new fangled comes along and, you know, we go back to whole language and something like that again is pulled back out from under them. I'd just like to know how much staff development, total hours they would have to go through.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Anything else that draws this board attention?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Ellis for mentioning we do need to address this demerger stuff. It's not slide it underneath the rug like it's not going to happen. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but the other thing is when do you plan on having this committee formed by next meeting, or is it later on you're looking at?
So we'll have some information at the next committee meeting, Mr. Jenkins, about how that committee meeting looks, because there will be some board members on that, so we can discuss it.
All right, and one final question. Have you met with county commissioners from Edgecombe and superintendent from Edgecombe in reference to the, I guess, not a committee meeting, but to discuss what's going on in reference to demerger?
No, they have not met with us yet.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Mr. Silver?
Mr. Sharp, one last comment from me tonight. If you continue to lead us like you led us tonight, you will do a wonderful job, and we'll be happy that we selected you as our board chair. If you don't do a good job from here on, there are board members on the board like Reggie that will let you know. But tonight, you've done a superb job. Oh, am I the only one? Am I the only one clapping? I guess I'm the only one that believes.
One man clapping.
Thank you, Mr.
Is this where we make a motion to adjourn?
I never had a lawyer sit beside me, so
I love it.
I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
He was scared I'd rub my
Chris?
Yes.
Go ahead and make that motion.
It's been, I can need a second.
Can we please adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
I make,
Second.
it's been probably moving second. Any question or discussion?